All right, welcome to the meal. I'm so excited today. I have a special guest, Jessica Sanders. Just excited to have her on today. How you doing, Jessica? How's it going?
Hello, I'm doing good. Can't
Good.
complain.
Awesome. So today, it's me coaching. I'm talking about what's going on with couples and addiction and all that. But every once in a while, I want to have like some specialists on here, some extras in their field, some people who are working in their field. So one of the parts of counseling, one of the parts of coaching is education and getting people to understand. So the whole goal is getting the stigma out, getting the stigma out of mental health, getting the stigma out of self-care. And one of the ways we do it is we introducing to people like you, Jessica, people who've been in the field for a while and they see it. So they might be used to seeing these older men in here. Now I'm getting a young face, somebody in their generation, somebody they can relate to. And Jessica's near to me because Jessica's one of my first hires I ever hired when I came into my job, and she has been doing wonderful things. She's been growing. So proud of her. But Jessica, kind of tell me how you got into this field and how did you pick your field that you in?
Well, when I started college, I wanted to do culinary.
Okay, wow.
But
Uh-huh.
when I got to college, the college life, I'm like, I don't want to cook nothing. But what I did, I told my mom, I was like, I want to help people, but I don't want to see no blood because she's everybody's in my family's a nurse. And I'm like, I don't want to see no blood. I don't want to do all that. And my mom was like, well, just try social work. I'm like, what is social work? We always think in our mind social work is taking people kids.
That is the definitely one.
And I'm like,
yes.
I don't want to take nobody kids. I don't want to go through that. And then she was, it was a young lady at USM because I started at USM, and they was like, well, just look into it. And when I looked into it, I'm like, we can do over 200 plus different types of jobs. And I'm like, okay. So when I started that, and I'm like, okay, well, I really want to work with human trafficking because when I went to school back in 2013, going to USM, human trafficking was a big thing, especially in Biloxi.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, I want to do this, but I'm still dealing with it in the substance abuse field, but I'm not dealing with it as much. But I'm getting to live out some dreams.
Wow.
With helping people.
Wow. Human trafficking. I remember when you first came, you did mention that, and I hadn't heard it as much, but that is an underlying thing in what you call in the field of addiction. A lot of people don't understand that a lot of times the drugs are being moved, but people are being moved along with that. Right. It's kind of like it's a story we don't hear as much about like we used to, but that is most definitely an underlying. Because I've had clients that actually have came in and did things on, but human trafficking was one of their one of their charges as well. So that's awesome.
They don't know they being human trafficking. They just think they just buying drugs and doing this, but it's actually it's a word for it. It's called human trafficking.
Wow. That is cool. Because there's so many people come into the field and everybody think that everybody just automatically know what they want to do.
Yeah.
It's like when I went to school, like I said, people don't know what your like my undergrad is in agriculture. Like I said, never wanted to do it. Didn't want to do counseling. Didn't want to do any kind of social work. But the reason why I did it, but I wanted to help people.
Right.
And most counselors are good counselor, good social worker are people who are like people minded. And so a lot of times people don't understand that most people who are in social work or in counseling, they're not there for the money. They're there because they care for people, because in order to do it, you got to really care for people, because you can't. And most social workers I know, most counselors I know, they hustlers. They out there trying to make it, but they still want, but their heart is always to the people. They always want to kind of help people. So I was kind of having the same stigma with social work. I was like, I don't want to be taking nobody's kids away. And it's funny because that's all you saw on TV was the episode when the person was taken away and it was a social worker. And she had the briefcase and she was coming to get the kids. You know what I'm saying? But we don't understand there's so much more to it than that.
Yeah.
So when you started then, I know you were doing substance abuse. How did you kind of get into that field with the substance abuse when you first started?
To be honest, I was just coming out of Jackson State, 2018, I think.
Okay.
And I was like, man, I need a job. And I forgot who helped me, but they was like, well, just go to Warren Yard Zoo. They got different types of things. I'm like, okay. And I found this. It said BS. That's all I needed to see. BSW. Because I wanted to get in my field. I didn't want to go get a degree and not work in my field.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I see BSW. Okay, I'm finna apply for this job. And then just by the grace of God, I came in. You gave me an interview.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm finna go in here. I didn't know what to say. I didn't have no expertise on substance abuse. I just thought substance abuse was like weed and things until I got down into it.
Right.
But got the job, and then I just got really involved.
Mm-hmm.
So
baptism by fire with that substance abuse, but you learn a lot. Cause I don't know how you feel like I was when we first came in. I know I came up under the moral model was that people who use drugs, a lot of times they just don't really care. They could do better, but they should do better until you go and learn that that your brain actually changes once you get in.
And I came in thinking it's a choice.
Yeah.
It's not a choice, it's a disease.
Right.
So it's like it took me years to figure that out while I was in my field. I'm like, okay, you just doing this just to do it. But no.
Right.
Until you kind of learn how the brain works when it's on drugs and when you're trying to get off drugs, and especially the withdrawal symptoms and the cravings. So it stems from it's a disease.
And the disease is it's a progressive disease.
Right.
And so what happened, a lot of times people don't know who they have the stigma of addiction, and they think that the person, now they might have started off being rebellious, they might have started off trying to be cool, they might have started off doing other things, but as they use more and more, that disease progresses.
Yeah.
They get to a point where they're learning the thing and to a point where they can't change because it's these pathways, and I ain't gonna use the biggest word, but it's neural pathways in their brain, they change, and it's a pathway to that feel-good chemical. And their body starts producing those chemicals, and eventually the chemicals you have in your body stops producing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so their body has to have it.
And see, I was I just learned this. Well, I was sitting in on somebody, another therapist sitting in on that group, and she was sharing that when you start using drugs, that's when your brain stops. So if you start using drugs at 12, you're gonna have that 12-year-old mindset as you continue to grow. So now you have to, once you're trying to get off of it, you're trying to train yourself past the teenager phase, past the adult phase. So I really didn't know that until I got into my field.
Super interesting, because that is well, I think I was talking to a person about that one time we was here. We was talking about the fact that how your brain, that's how trauma is exactly as well too. But it's the prefrontal cortex, which is the first part of your brain, and what happens is it shuts down, and that's the part that gives you rational thinking.
Right.
So that's the reason you can't get your driver's license until you're a certain age. That's because the prefrontal cortex doesn't close up until a certain age. That's what I learned from Dr. Ed when I first got there. And what happened, that's the first part of your brain that goes out, and so you're impulsive. And so what happened when a person coming back, so they go to treatment for 30 days or they don't finish. Nowadays it takes 100 days for your brain to change. And what happened is that if they leave early, their brain still hadn't changed, so they go out and do the same thing. I had a guy that, I don't know if you remember when we was there, that left out after he got treatment. He didn't leave early and went and robbed I think a Frizz with his mask off. He didn't even have a mask off. I'm talking about just didn't make any sense.
He robbed a Wendy's.
Well, yeah, robbed a Wendy's with his mask off. And they was like, why would he do that? I said, because he still is not thinking rationally, because that part of his brain did not cut back on. You know what I'm saying? And if we don't know that, we just think, well, it's just addiction. Got to know his brain is not changing. It's a brain disease. It's a brain disease and how your brain functions. But if you don't understand it, you know what I'm saying? You don't know, why do people do this thing? Why do they walk into that place in broad daylight? Because they don't understand. It's impulsive. They're impulsive too. And like you said, if you start, the earlier you start using, you kind of like freeze your brain. It's kind of like you pause at that age.
Yeah.
It's 12, 14, 20. You know, somebody uses it later, it's different. But it's really interesting. It can be sad, but it's also interesting how your brain works.
It really is.
Yeah. And so one thing I guess you learn kind of like in therapy, I know that y'all do as well, is they become a self-expert. You know, so they learn about their self. Because a lot of time when you're using, you're not thinking about, hey, this is why I do these things, or how I do these things, or this is how I progress. But when you were in therapy, you're teaching them how they it's the same way like a person has cancer or they got diabetes. What do? You come in, you talk to the doctor, and the doctor says, hey, this is what you got. This is how it works. This is how it looks. This is how it affects you.
Right.
And so when I come into like therapy for addiction, that's what I say, the same thing. Hey, this is what you got. This is why your brain is changing. This is why you have these cravings. Yeah. This is why you go through this process. You know what I'm saying? And so now they learn it, when they start feeling these different urges or these different triggers, they're aware. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So my trigger is like I always tell people going fishing, because a lot of people go fishing, they drink beer where they fish. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So when I first get out of therapy, I might not be able to go fishing. Yeah. My therapy is when I go to my cousin's house and me and my brother always get in arguments and I'm emotional. You know what I'm saying? So guess what? When I go to I know it's Christmas time. I know it's Thanksgiving, and I know my brother's gonna be there. I might need to call my mom and say, "Hey, mom, so and so gonna be there. I'm gonna come by. I'm gonna kiss you on your jaw, but I need to leave because I don't want to go and drink."
And I think the biggest thing about that is setting healthy boundaries.
Yes.
Yes.
Got to. You know what I'm saying? And that's what therapy does. It kind of it teaches them how to do those things, give them those tools. Still got to utilize the tools, but that's
right.
Same way. So what's your when y'all had what about AA? Had you ever had an experience about learning about Alcohol Anonymous, any of those things that you ever learned about that until you started doing our therapy?
Look, when I came in on just being a substance abuse therapist, I didn't know anything. I knew from what I grew up with, you know, so and so was hooked on cocaine, or so and so was hooked on weed, or you know, it was a lot of stuff. But it's like I didn't know the educational process of it. I'm like, won't this person just stop using?
Right.
And it's not that easy.
Right.
So you know, just like one of my family members, they was hooked on cocaine, but he didn't stop until he had a life-threatening situation happen. The doctor told him, "Look, if you keep using this, your heart gonna burst." So that what kind of made him stop. But you know, and I'm like, why he couldn't stop before that?
Right.
Like you had to get all the way down to this part just to stop using.
Yeah.
So, and that's what kind of, you know, I always keep that in the back of my head, and that story in the back of my head, because it's like, okay, Jessica, you need to know a little bit more, because it's not that simple. You can't don't judge a book by its cover.
Right.
So
And it's different things, and I think a lot of times people think it's a one-stop thing, and it doesn't. Some people need multiple treatments. Some people need 2 or 3 treatments. You always hear the stories of somebody go to AA and that's all they do, or they quit cold turkey.
Yeah.
But I told the guy, I said, I was telling one of my guys that came in, I said, you don't sit in there and be upset with somebody else because they couldn't do what you did.
Right.
Just because you're able to do that doesn't mean they're able to do that. So don't make them feel they are less than because it takes multiple times, or they need something like I put on here, medical assisted treatment. You know what I'm saying? Because some people think, hey, medical assisted treatment is wrong. When I first came, I was all against it. I was against, hey, I don't want to talk about methadone. I don't want to talk about Suboxone. I don't want to talk about all those things. And it's a big thing especially AA. It's a lot of things in these recovery centers about using medically assisted treatment. Some people are for it, some people are against it, some people think it's the devil. But right now, especially with the new drugs that's out, like with fentanyl and all that, they gotta have something in order to try to do it. So what's your experience with like the medical? I know you with Dr. Edney and everything. What's your take on that? What's your take on medically assisted treatment and how?
Well, people say that I'm hardcore because I'm against it.
Okay. Get your skill on.
I'm against it because it's almost switching a drug for another drug.
A lot of stores say the same.
Look, I tell clients a lot. They'll ask me, "What's your opinion?" I'm like, do you really want that opinion? Because I don't sugarcoat with my clients. I'm like, look here, you on Suboxone? How long you gonna be on it? Well, I'm only for all my life. You know, and then I've always had this conversation with my mom, because my mom's a nurse, and she works with a lot of them as well, works with a lot of people that comes in and everything. And I tell them like this, I said, Mom, I really don't agree with Suboxone. You know, it's switching a drug for a drug. Yes, I don't mind you staying on it for 4 months, long as you taping yourself off of it, because you just can't switch like that. And I understand that.
Right.
But however, it's another drug.
It's another drug, yeah.
It's a healthier drug, but a drug is a drug.
It's still trying to change different things. So it's a big thing. It's controversial, but it's being used. I know when we first came, it wasn't a big thing, but now it's bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
Like Vivitrol. But some people in extreme cases, like we got somebody that you've been on cocaine, you've been on harsh drugs for like 20 years. And sometimes, and you're a multiple user or you're an IV user. Sometimes they have to have that, and I understand in extreme cases sometimes they need it. And sometimes even Vivitrol for alcohol use, you know what I'm saying, and Antabuse, and what's the other one they use? Ativan, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To get off of alcohol, because sometimes that craving is so strong. Yeah, you need and with fentanyl, especially with the opioid, they're so strong, and it has a longer half-life. Half-life just means, for the viewers, it just means it stays in your body longer.
Right.
It's kind of like marijuana. Marijuana has a strong half-life. What they mean by that is that if you got a lot of fat on your body, marijuana sits in your body for a long time. You know what I'm saying?
I had this client to come in. And I know he hasn't used anything because he came from the jail to here. I mean to the facility, and he was there about 100 days. He said, "Miss Justice still in my system." I said, "We gonna stay in your system for a long time."
Because it
But
takes you fat, yeah.
yeah. So
You got a little meat on you, yeah.
but when they take it to the lab, they'll tell you, okay, so it's wearing off. It's wearing off. So it takes a minute.
Yeah, and that even also let you know kind of about how drugs are. Stay in your system.
Yeah.
What I see too, the longer you use it, they start fixing with your organs and your body and all those different things like that. So it's a good thing. I think you should research it if you need to do it. But sometimes you need it. I don't want people to think that is a bad thing. I know some AAs they won't even they don't even believe. I don't know. And like I said, Purtis is here. He's not around, but I would ask him, if he was around, I would say, Purtis, how do the people feel about that in AA meetings? Because a lot of times you got people who are staunch against it. They won't even let you come in. They say, guess what? They feel like you're not in recovery if you're on what you if you're on medical assisted treatment, Suboxone, methadone, they don't feel
I know a lot of sober livings doesn't agree with it. I think I've only known 2 sober livings that will approve for you to have Suboxone. But everything else, oh no, we can't take you. And it's not that me personally, I don't care for it because it's switching a drug for a drug. Now, do I agree that, you might need it once you get out, but I don't believe staying on it for a long period of time. So, if you need it to help you, because I understand those cravings, them withdrawals.
Right.
I've worked in where my facility at, we have detox there. So I see the people that are in detox and they struggle.
It's bad. It gets
bad.
bad,
Even on the
alcoholics.
Ativan and stuff like that. And it's like, you be like, you okay? You think they going cold turkey because they still sweating, they still going through all this, and it's like, no, I just took my Ativan. I'm like, who?
Yeah. It's strong, and the longer and then your body is different. But it's kind of like, I look at it almost kind of like the way of when you go and have surgery or something like that. They give you real strong, strong opioids, and so I think you should always take what you need when you first start.
Right.
The goal is to always wean yourself off, so you don't have that crutch. And at the same time, you use your coping skills and use your counseling in order to get to a point where, hey, I need to learn how to deal with pain.
Right.
And the biggest thing I see in addiction is that people get so used to being numb that what happens is when they start withdrawing, they start having a hard time feeling something. And I tell some clients, I said, most people you talk to them who are not in their addiction, they deal with some pain every day. Like I told my son one time, he was telling me his leg was hurt. I was like, son, daddy left arm hurt, my hip hurt, my knee hurt, my back hurt. I said, that's just part of life hurting.
Yeah.
And a lot of times in addiction, when you're numb, you know what I'm saying, you don't realize that, hey, life has a little pain. And so the goal is to get you to about 75% pain. You know what I'm saying? I mean, 75% not, out of pain. You know what I'm saying? You got like a little 25% and understand that I don't supposed to go through life numb. You know what I'm saying? So it's a whole mind, frame shift. And that's why continual treatment, even when I can't go to get therapy, I can still get like AA, so AA meetings have been like, paramount to people I know who are successful. That been your experience with people who are successful, the people who continue to like have sponsors and go to AA meetings and all that?
And now I don't know if you know, but they have CR, Celebrate Recovery.
Yeah, Celebrate Recovery. And I'm just hearing about it more and more.
It's really big. I didn't know it was that big, but they it's really big in Vicksburg now.
Okay.
It's at a few places, and I was like, I've never really actually heard of CR, Celebrate Recovery, and then until some of my clients, they was like, Miss Jessica, we love it because it's almost ran like NAAA, but it's more celebrating their new life.
So it's more out up front. It's not out kind of.
It's showing you, okay, it's another way of living without your drug.
That's awesome.
So I'm like, okay, so they do devotions, they do all this.
Yeah, and I have seen videos on YouTube of people who are. I tell you what I really like is to see people who they show their pictures where they used to be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They go on because we take pictures sometimes, and it's amazing how much of your life you get back with it.
Right.
So one of the things that was paramount to me when I started in this field was learning about community mental health places, because a lot of times, a lot of people don't know that. Hey, because I lived in Vicksburg for like 10 years before I found out we even had it. Went to church next door to my facility, didn't know that they had a community mental health. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know that it was places where you could get help and you didn't have to have any money.
Yeah.
So, now we got scholarship grants. Now we got opioid grants. And one of the things I want to do on here is like tell people, hey, just because you're thinking that you got to go and pay $30,000 or $60,000 a year, there are places and community mental health are in every community. You know what I'm saying, where you can go get help, where they got grants where you don't have to pay anything. You can get your detox free. If you need detox, you can come in and get your treatment free. And treatment and therapy is expensive. You know what I'm saying? That's one of the reasons I do this here is because everybody can't afford to go and have private insurance. Everybody doesn't have a place where they can go get community health, but there are places that are free. And so if you utilize those places, you can get help. Your family member can get help. And so did you know about all that?
I didn't know it until I got into the field and just trying to find resources for my clients and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, so you don't have to. I'm not gonna say it's good to have insurance, but it's like, okay, they do have places out there that can help you without insurance. Okay, because when we started taking people, when I came into Warren Yazoo, I'm like, okay, so the person called. I'm like, okay, so I need the insurance. Y'all was like, no, you don't need the insurance. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a lot of places out there. You just got to find that one big resource, such as American Addiction.
American Addiction Centers, right?
I didn't know they was a big resource like they are. I called one, and then she calls me back about, okay, we have several different substance abuse treatment centers that can help you, and she gives me a list. I'm like, I did not know this. We don't publicize those things.
Yeah, and they got an 800 number. People still are not getting into them, but the American Addiction Centers, and they connect you with all the local resources.
Right.
They have a 1-800 addiction, and
even
they
sober living.
Yeah, sober livings. Yeah, they have the sober livings. They have centers that people who are underage. You can go and you can contact your local the Department of Mental Health, and they have all that on there. They have places where they have it for like teenagers, for ladies who are pregnant and nursing, for pregnant IV users. And if you're a pregnant IV user, a lot of people don't know that you go immediately to the front. Yeah, you get immediately to the front because that's two people.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times they don't know, and so that's one of the things that I do love about learning about community mental health is that guess what, is resources out there. But a lot of times we don't know it because we don't publicize it about those things. And so that's one of the purposes of this is trying to get people out there. But one of the things I want to talk to you too about, Jessica, was like, we call it co-occurring disorders, but dual diagnosis. What have you seen in that, being in this field? A lot of times we think people either got a mental illness or they got addiction. But it's going to find out that a lot more people have like dual diagnosis. What have you seen?
I think it go hand in hand.
Okay.
I think when sometimes, I'm not gonna say I think, sometimes when you are using drugs, you're trying to escape for something. So that brings a light to PTSD.
Okay.
Or you having these mental illness such as schizophrenia or depression. Depression is a big one. Anxiety.
Right.
Depression and anxiety is a big one that I have been seeing for the last 8 years.
Yeah.
That we think is just something different from the drug use. No, you suppressing what you got going on, and you using that drug to cope. But once you come down, you still gonna feel those.
If you still feel, but that's
feel those feelings.
Right. That's one of the ways we tell is that if a person, if they get clean, when they get been there 30 to 60 days, if you're still feeling depressed, or you still feeling anxiety, it's something beyond the drug.
Right.
And so that's because you can get drug-induced depression, drug-induced anxiety, but a lot of times, the drug can bring it on, or the drug can be something we take because I'm depressed.
Right.
I have something that I want to take meth in order to make myself feel better. If I'm a person that is anxious, I want to take marijuana to make me feel low, or I take something that's going to depress me like alcohol. You know what I'm saying? Or I'm feeling a certain kind of way. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I've seen it to become. It's more and more. It's more and more normal than we think it is. I'm saying, and a lot of people don't understand that it is, different. You know what I'm saying? So I think being aware of that, and so being aware that, hey, dual diagnosis is real.
Yeah, and I tell a lot of people that comes in, especially when it's their first time, man, I don't want to do the 12 steps. The 12 steps is where it's at.
Yeah,
because you opening those can of worms that you thought you was gonna never open it up, and like, okay, so this is where I started using, because I never told nobody I was molested.
Yes, that's so. That is so deep. And then one of the things me and Curtis talk about, one of his biggest things we got going on now is to talk about the crack years. And I know you're so young that you don't probably got that thing, but I was gonna ask you at the end. But what happened is that a lot of things went on that we don't talk about. A lot of molestation went on in the crack years. A lot of sexual abuse, rapes happened during that time.
Yeah.
Because one of the things we were talking about is like, people, the video goes up. I was talking to a guy not too long ago, and he was saying I might have been a female, and she was saying that when you're in people are taking meth, everything goes up. Meth makes you, they can stay up days and days of time.
Yeah.
She said not only does everything go up, like that, your libido goes up. So they're sexually, and so those kids in that house, everybody in that house are subject to getting, molested or used at any time because everything is up. You know what I'm saying? So even though they might not, and they're not themselves, they're not the person they used to be.
Right.
You tell a person that happened to, they still is not an excuse. They're like, well, you can't just say, well, I know what happened to me. But those things happen. So you got to think about during that time when crack was coming out, all that kind of stuff. And so the molestations and, the sexual abuse, the physical abuse,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying, was going on. You know what I'm saying? And those physical abuse, guess what? It goes on. So even though that wasn't in your generation, it passed its own.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So guess what? If my mama was abused and I go on, she had some issues back. So she's not able to be as loving to me. So
Right.
it's a reciprocal effect. You know what I'm saying? It keeps on affecting.
The cycle continues.
Yes, and we don't talk about it because we kind of, one of the things we talked about during that the crack years is that, why we don't talk about it. And one of the things we talked about it is that you probably grew up with burger bars and don't even know why they was on the windows of the doors. But you remember when they started. I remember when my grandma came in, and one day I just remember the guy outside with the little torch and he was installing burglar bars. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't think about the fact that crack came in at that time, and then what happened, people started breaking in people's houses to a point where my grandmother and them had to make an investment. You know what I'm saying? Because they wasn't cheap to have it. And then, stores start having them on the windows and all that. So, when addiction comes, when drugs come into a community, especially like in the Black community, then everything changes. You go to Jackson now. I remember driving to Jackson when I was at college. It's like, it's certain, so even in some of the good neighborhoods, it was burglar bars on every store. I was like, every store got burglar bars on here. Why is that? Because people were coming in stores and doing that, but it's a reciprocal approach. So what we don't talk about is that, hey, what are they? These people had children. These people were somebody's brother, sister, uncle. So what was going on in them families?
Right.
What's the result? You know what I'm saying? Because it has to be a result of that happening. You know what I'm saying? And so when we kind of sweep around what happened in those addictions, you got to think about it. It's very rarely discussed about, because I was telling, when me and Percy was talking about it, the reason I think so is because the rap area came in at that same time.
Yeah.
So we kind of glorified, you know what I'm saying, people wearing the clothes and the rap and the jewelry. It was, and so gangster rap kind of like, kind of sugarcoat or romanticize the other side. Because for those guys to have that money,
sell it and
they had to be selling. They had to be doing so, especially down there. Because I'll tell you what, I remember my first year at Alcorn. My first year at Alcorn, when I was there, we went to this, it was a Sonic there. I know you probably heard the story about the guy had the rims on his car and the guy shot him for the rims. You ever heard about that story?
Oh.
Yeah, my first year there. Somebody shot the guy and stole his rims. He had some Dayton's on a Regal. It's Sonic, you know what I'm saying? And what happened, the guy stole his car and he ran out the car and somebody shot him, right there.
Oh, wow.
But I remember it being in that era of what's going on. But those guys were, everybody was trying to be, cool, and everybody had the money and all that stuff like that. But we forget about all those effects that it had. You know what I'm saying? And I remember people's family then come to meet later on to meet the person's brother who got killed, when I was in college. You know what I'm saying? But you don't think about all that effect. We think about the good part, but we don't realize that addiction has a way of doing it. But the main thing is why it's covered up, why we don't talk about it, why we don't discuss it. You know what I'm saying? So it's really interesting. So
I think it goes back to, why it goes back to that saying back in the day. Now, whatever happened in his house stays in his house. So, now that's why I say I think I'm not gonna say my generation, but I feel like my generation kind of pushed it. Therapy.
Yeah.
Kind of pushed the therapy. Okay, I know Mama said whatever happened in his house, stay in his house, but when we're gonna stop the cycle? When we're gonna break the cycle? Because now, look at our generation now.
Yeah, it's something. It has. Well, what happened is that, and I love my mom, and that's what we talked about as well. But it's more now. What is that done for you? I used to have a teacher say, "How's that working out?" You know what I'm saying? So we've been doing that, but how's that working out? How's that working out for you? When I do couples counseling and they say this going on, I'm just gonna be like that. Well, I was like, so how's that working out for you? It's not working out. So we need to do something different.
Yeah.
So therapy is just getting people to talk. I was talking to one of a client last night, and I was like, it's the first time with therapy. I said, ain't that bad? He said, yeah, man, it's good. He said, man, I feel like I got a weight that has left my shoulders, because he said, I really don't have friends I can talk to. I don't have other people I can talk to. So me talking to you, guess what? Now I can, I can put that down. People don't realize how therapy can do that.
See where we from in the South, our therapy is going to church.
Right. Yeah.
But I go to I've been going to Bible study for the last 8 months. And we talked about, therapy and all that.
Yeah.
God placed us in these type of positions to do therapy for y'all.
Right.
So that's we got
that's a hand and feet. Yeah.
We just
like
a vessel. He's using us as a vessel. So it's like, go get your therapy.
What they talk about in the Bible, they had counselors. You got counselors, the people that counsel the king.
Right.
You have people that came in. They was teachers that taught. You know what I'm saying? And so you need all those different areas. You need tools. Because even when you get rid of those things, even though when you pray, you still need to go in there and understand, hey, this is how I got to this point.
Yeah.
This is why I'm like that. And so maybe I'm not strange, maybe I'm not different. And one of the things we do here is trying to say, hey, this is what's going on, and this is how I deal with things, and this is how things, but just because I dealt with them my whole life don't mean that's normal.
Right.
You're missing one, like went to college and you like, somebody tell you something like that, that, you can be in a family like that. Yeah, your mama cook, you ain't never heard that before. And then you like, y'all, everybody ain't fighting all the time. Yeah,
Yeah.
But if you ain't never seen that, and that's your normal, that's what you just think is normal. I remember, and I told him before, I remember dating this girl one time, and she was like, no, you're not gonna hit me. And I was like, no, I don't hit no women. She's like, well, you don't love me, you hit me. And I was like, no, I don't hit women. But she was not trying to be funny. She was not trying to be, trying to act a certain kind of way. That's just what she thought was good. She said, because when her dad and mom, she said her mama stayed with her dad, and she's like, why you let him hit you? She said, he loved me. He don't hit me, he loved me. And so that's what she thought. If you love me, you hit me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And see, not my mom, but my grandmama and my granddad, they fought all the time. I heard stories all the time. Granddaddy hit my grandmama upside the head with an axe once before. And I'm so glad that, he got his life on track, and my grandmama, she got out that situation or whatever before they both passed away. But I was so glad that, that didn't go down the line to my parents. So it's like I didn't see that.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that, okay, that's not the norm. My mom always told me, Jessica, that is not a normal thing.
Right.
So don't think this gonna happen over here.
Right. Yeah. If nobody stops it, nobody says, hey, guess what? Us holding it in, us not talking about it, has got us to this point. And you'll hear people say, hey, I'm just like that. I say, yeah, but you mean though. But you stubborn though. You know what I'm saying? Now you ain't got no one friend in the world. Yeah, I'm just like that. I say, yeah, but what does it cost you by not seeing about it? What does it cost you by not talking about things?
Right.
It's talking about holding everything in. And what happened, I spill over and then I hurt the people that I care about. What does it cost you about you being fragmented to a point where you don't see, if I'm fragmented and somebody hurts me and I what I do, I try to protect myself. So I fragment myself off. And so now I'm in a relationship with my wife and I'm only giving her 70% of my love.
Yeah.
And then somebody else hurt me at work and now I'm fragmented again and I'm giving my wife 50% on my child, 30% of me. And they were like, Daddy, why don't you ever, why don't you let us in? I am letting you in, but I don't realize that I can't let you in because I'm fragmented.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so that's what happened when we hold ourselves back.
Yeah.
And so when I deal with that fragment, it's not for those people that I'm doing it so I can love the people who love me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times we don't understand that. And so what a therapist do is help you understand, hey, this is a rock right here. You got that rock because this person hurt you. You got that rock because this person disappointed you. You got that rock because this person rejected you. And so we go and deal with the rejection. You don't owe them anything for that.
On walls.
Yeah, and we do it. And then the walls hold out the good things and the bad. That's the thing we won't realize.
And I was taught, like, just growing up and, trying to break down my wall. Somebody told me that I tell everybody else now at the facility or my friends, stop putting the walls up and build a fence.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You can see what's going on over at that fence, or
Yeah.
on the other side of that fence. So if you don't want to walk over there, don't walk over there.
Good.
But
That's good.
stop putting no brick walls up and just make a fence.
Yes, because you can see through it.
Yeah.
You can see through it. And then you can be aware of it. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? We see things hurting you, then you build boundaries, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I say, make them so you can see through them. You know, build a good boundary. That's good, Dish.
Yeah.
I like that, man. That's some good stuff there. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? That's good. So with all that said, Jessica, I know you got like a unique story, and one of the things I asked about you is that about self-care and mental health. What are you kind of give me a little thing about that, about your self-care and mental health? How did you get on that journey? You dealing with your
I think I'll say, okay, let me give you a backstory. You know, in college, you know, you run them streets and stuff.
Yeah.
But, you know, I didn't know I was being depressed. I didn't know I was having depressed episodes or whatever. But I was just missing home, and I didn't know how to tell. I'm not a person that open up. I didn't know how to tell my mom. So I just I acted out, and I was like, "Mom, I just want to come home." And she was like, "What's going on?" I said, "No, I just want to come home." So I didn't go get help then. I just knew I was just sad, and I was just exploding every which way. So I came home. I started going to the best school in the land,
Okay.
Jackson State.
Okay. All right.
What you guys say?
That's his opinions. Okay.
I started going to that school, which I loved it. Got my bachelor's degree, and then I met my child's father. That's when I knew that I got diagnosed with depression. I was pregnant. Yeah, you remember this? You dealt with me through my whole pregnancy.
Yeah.
And it was to the point to where when I found out I was going through so much with my child's father, with cheating and lying and all the other stuff that goes with a relationship.
Yeah.
A toxic relationship, let me say that. It was just bothering me and everything. And I went to my first ultrasound, and my doctor, he noticed that I was going through so much, and he was like, "Look, we're not gonna. You are so broken that I'm scared for you to even have this child."
Wow.
So I never told him what was going on. My mama was there. Yeah, something wrong with her. So and so he was like, "Before I can go further, before you can have this child, I want you to go to a therapy session."
Wow.
And that was what 2021. I went to my first therapy session. He set up my therapy session and everything because he didn't want me to go through my pregnancy.
That is great.
For everything.
Yeah.
And she was like, you know, you've been going through depression for over, I think back then it was like 6 years. I was like, no.
Wow.
I just knew I was sad. You know, even though I was in that field of, okay, people do a diagnosis, I never knew it was me. I never knew I was going through depression. I thought I was just sad and just an angry Black woman.
Yeah.
But, you know, they kind of put a diagnosis on me. I was depressed, dealing with anxiety all at the same time. They put me on some medicine that I thought I didn't need, so I wasn't taking it at all.
Okay.
You know, through my depression. My mom would say, "Take your medicine." I'd be like, "Okay," but I never took it because those thoughts came, those suicidal thoughts. You know, I had two bad episodes of trying to harm me and my child.
Wow.
So, you know, until I had my baby, and I had to move back in with my mom because she didn't trust me due to my depression.
Wow.
So, and I didn't trust myself either, but I wasn't gonna tell her I didn't trust me. I was like, okay, I'm just moving back in. But that was the best thing I could ever do because I can see me now.
Yeah.
You know, going to jail for harming my child and me regretting it. So, yeah.
With the spiral, yeah.
Yeah, I spiraled out of control.
Yeah.
When was that snowstorm?
Yeah.
I had a bad episode back then. That was 3 weeks before I gave birth to my baby. My mom was actually stuck in Jackson trying to come down there, but she was stuck on the highway. Wow. So she made my dad come get me from the house because I think I was on the ground with a knife, pills. and everything. My dad didn't know what going on. He just said, "Come on, Jessica, get up here."
Wow.
But she finally got to me, and all she did was just prayed over me. And then she made me take my medicine every day.
Wow.
She stayed at the house for a week to help me get back on track.
System.
And I think one of the biggest things that I did, I put my high power on the back burner.
Yeah. Got yourself. That's good. That's good.
That's why I one thing I do, I tell people I'm not a regular therapist. I'm a motivational therapist.
Okay.
I tell people I try to motivate y'all to go get that self-care, that self-love.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people kind of put that on the back burner, doing this self-love, self-care.
Yeah.
Because if I had the love that I have for myself, that none of that would have happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things people don't. They look for love so other places, but they don't realize that you don't love yourself. You can't love. You know what I'm saying? You can't love other people. You can't love other people. Because we think a person is gonna save us and all these things like
right.
A relationship is gonna save us. But we gotta love ourselves. And because if we love ourselves, we can realize when somebody's hurting us. So when they doing things that's not healthy for ourselves. You know what I'm saying? And so and so I'm glad you shared. I appreciate it. Just 'cause a lot of people don't share that story. They see people in therapy, they see people who are like social workers or in that field. I know you hold a higher position in your job, and they think that they just got it going on. They got it made.
Look, I tell anybody, I say your therapist got a therapist.
Yeah, if they're good therapists, they should have somebody to
I'm
talk
gonna
to.
take on your situation. Who's gonna take on my situation?
Right.
So I tell everybody, go get that, go get your help. Especially those, because I'm so knowledgeable of depression and anxiety.
Yeah.
You need your medicine.
Yeah.
And just don't take it one day out the week.
Right.
It takes 2 weeks to get into your systems for you to see a difference.
Right.
So I don't need you to be saying, Miss Jessica, I took it today, but I ain't taking it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, you want to be back. You want to be back at stage 1 then.
Yeah, because you're not complying. Because it take about 6 months to get to a point where change actually starts. And so even for you to be able to use those coping skills. And so you want to get in your system. You want to be able to use those coping skills because you don't want to be a crutch that, hey, when I don't have my medicine, I'm this thing. But then also that you're not your addiction. You're not depression. You're not anxiety. That's something that you have, but it doesn't have you. You also learn those skills in order to do it, because even with having a baby, PTSD, people don't realize that postpartum depression is real.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Have people having that, and and when you see it, and that's why husbands and wives need to be aware of, hey, this is the possibility. Not saying you have it, but hey, these things can happen.
Yeah.
And I also want to make sure that, hey, when I have that, I was watching this thing, and this guy, like, he's a good preacher, good pastor. I think when his wife died, he was taking pills. They was like, well, you do all this deliverance ministry, you do all this stuff like that. He said, yeah, but sometimes you got to have medication so that you can get to a point where you can do these things. You know what I'm saying? And so we so far, because I'm a person strong in my faith, but sometimes you need medication and get to a point where you can go and take, and do what you need to do. You know what I'm saying? So all of those things together work together. It's not just one thing, it's the only thing. You know what I'm saying? So,
one thing I do now, I open my mouth.
Yeah.
I was telling my mom the other day, last week was Mother's Day, and depression sneaks up on you. You never know when it's gonna come. Well, for me, I'm gonna use an I.
Okay.
You never know when it's gonna come. And all last week, I just sat there Friday through Monday. I was so down and I was depressed, and my mama kind of knew it. She was like, "Let's go out to eat." I'm like, "Okay," and because that's I have coping skills as well. I tell people a lot. I don't have to be an addict to have coping skills. And I tell them, I said, one of my biggest coping skills is going out to eat.
Yeah.
Or doing a cooking. I do like these little cooking things at my house because I watch TikTok a lot.
Yeah.
So, I look at different recipes or anything. So, I try to get out the house. I stay at my mom's house. If I'm feeling sad, I open my mouth and say, look, I'm not feeling good today. I need to do something.
Yeah.
So that's one of the biggest things a lot of people don't do is open their mouth. And I think when people start opening their mouth and expressing their feelings, we will get somewhere.
And that's good. You hit my next question. That was my next thing. How you do self-care. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people don't realize with depression is that sometimes you got to get out that stage where you are. Because that depression, if I'm gonna sit in this chair and I'm depressed, sometimes me just changing my my direction, my atmosphere, me leaving outside, me walking, me going to a somewhere to eat, me going to a park.
Yeah.
Getting out of that place that I'm depressed changes the whole thing. It's hard to take depression when you're outside or, change the atmosphere. But if I sit in this one chair in this one room every day and be depressed, then that's how I'm going to be. Because I'm actually kind of making a habit of that.
Yeah.
Kind of making a depression room. You know what I'm saying? I remember when I had COVID, I sat in that room. It was the worst thing in there. It was so bad when I sat in there, being isolated was so hard for me. And so what happened when I got well, I didn't want to go nowhere near that room for a long time because I was so used to just being in there.
I was there.
Yeah, when I was there, yeah, it messed me up though. I'm talking about because I had I had this spiritual withdrawal because I think how I like me and God good. I know I'm not finna get COVID, and when I got it, it's like I went to a spiritual deficit. I'm talking about I went so down. It's like my belief had went down.
I don't think you can get touched.
I'm talking about, but I had it was like one of my worst times to a point where it could have been something more if I would allow it to be.
Right.
It wanted. I could see it going to this point.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So if you never felt that low before, it's hard to have an understanding. People don't realize how deep depression and anxiety can go. You know what I'm saying? It's a hole. Depression is this hole that you dig, but if you don't realize it, you're the one with the shovel.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you're going deeper and deeper. And I tell people it's kind of like, I remember digging this grave for one of my wife's uncles died, and everybody else was kind of, and I knew him and everything, but I didn't know him as much as they did. And I had just got out working. I used to work manual labor for a while when I had stopped working, and so I was in really good shape. Huh? Oh yeah, I was in really good shape. And so when they was doing it, it was real hard clay, and I just remember digging when they had this thing called a sharpshooter. So they was all laughing, and so I'm digging. I'm digging. So next thing I know, I had digging. I'm 6 feet tall, and so I had to dig it 9 feet tall. But by the time I got out of it, it was so deep that I couldn't get out of it. And the only way I could get out of that hole was if somebody had to reach down and get me out. Yeah. I always think about that with depression. Depression is a thing that you dig in a hole, but the only way sometimes you can get out of depression is somebody got to help you out of the hole.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's what I always think about that. So sometimes when you're in depression, you need somebody else.
Yeah.
And one of the ways you get out of depression too is serving. I always tell people to serve people. You're going out there and you helping some little old lady, you serving somebody, you doing something where nobody's paying you. You know, it's hard for you to be down when you're helping people, when you're assisting people. So that's one thing I always ask people. I say, go and help somebody. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's hard you go help an old lady with a thing or push somebody around or go to the nursing home and visit. It's hard to be depressed when you're doing that thing like that because when you serve it, because it releases these endorphins that make you feel good. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So you counter those good things with those bad things. So that's really good, Jessica. So I appreciate you for sharing and everything like that. So that is pretty much what it's going. Unless you got anything to share. You got anything to leave us with before you leave? Anything to the people who out there who, I tell you what, anybody that you think that might be suffering with depression and anxiety, what would you say to them?
Open your mouth.
Open your mouth.
Open your mouth and you can overcome it.
Okay, open your mouth. Yeah. Well,
go get that help. I'm telling you. Yeah, we go to church, for those that go to church, but God placed therapists in your life for a reason. Good. So go get that help.
Get that help, man. That's good. I think I agree with that 100%. But Jessica, I'm so glad to have you. I'm so proud of you, man, what you've been doing and your how you've grown. Like I said, she's kind of like a little daughter to me. She reminds me of my daughter because they're around the same age. I ain't gonna tell you her age because she be lying. I don't want to.
21.
But I appreciate it. But we are so glad to be here, guys. And like I said, Jessica, might have you back one day to come talk to us again.
Please.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing and even getting your heart, just because a lot of people, they don't want to share, but that's the whole goal, is eliminating stigma, being real, telling people truthful so they can see, hey, even though a person like Jessica in her field, that we can still deal with it.
Look, my mama told me before I got here, she said, don't get nervous because you can save a life.
You can, man. You have. I think you have.
Somebody out there listening that's probably going through the same thing I went through, and I probably said at least 2 words that can help them, and look, I'm there for it. So
that's awesome. Yeah, one of my friends one of my friends was telling me about, he says, like, he said, what we do as therapists and social workers, we plant seeds.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We plant seeds, and so if nothing else, you planted some good seeds in the ground. But I appreciate everybody. Thank you, viewers. I appreciate you being on the meal with us today and walking through this journey with us. And we've already talked about the crack years. I always ask about the crack years. So we kind of got in there a little bit earlier instead of the end. Yeah. That's one of our things. And so, yeah, we just want to bring it. So if you get a chance, check us out, Jessica. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for being here. We love you, and we'll talk to you and see you again next week, okay?
But before you get away,
okay,
I do want to interject just for a hot second because y'all brought up something I think that will need to be repeated.
Okay.
Because I don't think you stayed on it long enough. Okay. For people who are going into treatment and therapy.
Yeah.
You guys touched on the time it takes for the medication to enter the system, into the bloodstream, and become effective.
Yeah.
some people don't have that patience. They think the pill should be like the drugs.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I should be high now,
yeah,
and this should be working today,
right.
Yeah.
immediately. So I would like for you guys to talk about that again, how your experience is with medication, if you've had it, whether it is personal or one of your clients, because
Yeah,
I think a lot of people drop out when that pill doesn't work like that
yeah,
coke
yeah,
does,
yeah,
or like that PCP or heroin.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
we don't want to lose people because of the impatience we have
yeah,
with our medication or therapy. So, and again, this is a under construction view, guys.
yeah.
I'm gonna push it
Yeah,
back to
yeah,
push it
yeah.
back out here to them, because I would like for y'all to reiterate on that.
Okay.
Well, I can speak from me trying to get my depression together.
Yeah.
I had to go through, I think my mom worked with the doctor. I think I went through 2 different types of medications
Okay.
that fit me, because the first medication I was on, I gave it at least a month, but she was like, "Just, you don't look normal. You walking around looking like a zombie."
Right.
So you got to find that medication that's gonna fit you, that's
Right.
gonna make you feel like you're back to
Right.
norm.
Right.
So you have to work with your doctor. You have to be patient about it as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
You know, I tell a lot of people. I just talked to this young lady in the facility that I work with. She's going through detox.
Mhm.
And when I said she exploded because she thought the Ativan was gonna work just like that,
Mm.
I said, you got to be patient. You
Right.
have to be patient. And she
Right.
was like, no, I need it now. And she kind of exploded to the point to where we had to call the ambulance because she got outrageous with it.
Right.
So
Right. And they don't realize a lot of times with it having a long, but even the drugs they're taking having a long half a life, a lot of times they don't even realize that even the drug they're taking is still like the other drugs, the residual that they've.
right.
So they don't realize that a lot of times the high they got is from like the old high.
Yeah.
So with Ativan or a new drug, a new thing is in your system, it takes a while. It's like the same way if you take an aspirin or something like that. It takes a while for it to kick in.
Right.
Unless they kind of giving you like something like medicine in your IV in your arm, it takes a while. And then like you're saying with mental health medicine, it takes a while to get in your system before it starts working. It takes a while. So you got to give it time and you got to have patience. Now, you take that with a person who have addiction, who are impulsive, that's hard.
Yes.
Because it's like a little, you always got to realize too, things when we was talking about two purposes, is like at that age, you still kind of like don't have any, your rational thinking is gone. It's like a child, I want it now, I want it now, I want it now. But they don't realize that you can't get it now. I got it. So that's when I got to learn my coping skills. That's why it's medication with therapy that helps me understand. So I got to learn how, guess what? I'm going to feel some things. And that's hard when you've been numb. And so we have to really be patient as family, as parents, and people don't realize like with addiction is a family disease. Even though we might not want to be in a family, so we gotta learn. And so one of the things about is Al-Anon meetings. Where
I'm about to say Al-Anon.
Al-Anon, yeah, Al-Anon.
Really, Al-Anon.
Yes,
I've never known about Al-Anon until I think 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And this young guy was like, I want my parents to go to Al-Anon. I'm like, what is Al-Anon?
Yeah.
And he was like, well, that is for, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's for people that hasn't been on drugs, that don't know anything about it, goes get the education for it.
Yeah, they families, it's for the families. So the whole setup is it's like the AA education for parents and family members, people who care. So it's really for people, family members who care about people who are in addiction.
Right.
So they can learn and they can have an understanding. And now I can understand. It's the same way. So like if you have cancer, they bring your family and they go this thing where the family learns about cancer. They learn about, hey, these are the effects. This is how it's gonna, how their body might start doing when they start getting sick, how they look when they're in addiction, if they're using again, how their eyes look. You know what I'm saying? So it's a good thing for you to understand and also understand cravings and all these different things like that, so you can walk them through. Same way with depression and anxiety. If I learn about that, if you're my spouse and something happens to you, you got depression, I'm gonna learn about it. You know what I'm saying? So I can understand when you're having them depressive mode. So your mama can say, hey, Jessica, let's take a ride. Let's go do this thing like that. So I'm seeing these things before it progresses all the way so I can do it. And so, learning about, like, you got to be educated. If you really want to beat, they tell you, like, when you're in addiction, you're impulsive. So to beat it, you got to have a long game. You got to become a thinker. And so I got to know about this addiction. So when I really want to do it, I got to understand that, hey, I'm going to hurt. Like the doctor gonna say, hey, you're gonna be in you're gonna be in a little pain. It's gonna be a little while. You know what I'm saying? You gotta be patient with it. I know it's hard to be patient. So we gotta have some other coping skills. We might have to learn how to do some physical activity. We might have to start taking some walk. We might have to exercise. We gotta start trying to release endorphins as much as we can in order to try to counter some of those feelings.
Simple things, those small things are the biggest thing in your life.
Yes, because that if we don't realize that it's a time release. A lot of those medicines are time release and it takes a while. And so that's that realizing how I got to kind of retrain my mind, my body, all that stuff like that. So it's a retraining your body has to go through. It's like being in a bad relationship. I got to retrain that, hey, everybody's not like this. Everybody's not, like that. Oh, I got to have a new boss. My boss was terrible. So guess what? Every boss ain't like this. I meet a black person. Every black person ain't like that. Every white person ain't like this. I got to relearn because this is all I known. Because just because I known it was my normal, that don't mean your normal was right.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I got to learn, hey, this is how we take medicine right. This is how we take it wrong. And even like, hey, when I get sick now, I need to go ahead and let them know, the doctor know, hey, I'm a recovering addict. I'm a recovering I take these certain medications because if I don't, and the doctor gives me a narcotic, guess what? Now I'm in this full-fledged thing and I get out and I gotta go out there and use again. You know what I'm saying? So I gotta be aware so I can let other people understand that, hey, I'm not normal in that way. And sometimes that's hard for people because we want to be normal. But as a person who's diabetic, they're not normal in that way. Some person has high blood pressure, they're not normal in that way. We can't take the same kind of medication that somebody else takes. And so it's not saying that you're not normal and wrong, it's just normal and just different. And we're different. You know what I'm saying? We're different. So the same way, I think, Curtis, I hope that kind of answered what you were saying, man. It's just, it's a whole process of getting through it. So
I think y'all went right into it. I think that that touched all them bases that the people needed to hear about the time it takes to really make that transition.
Yeah.
I think Jeff said it is like, it took you a long time to get addicted to these drugs. It's going to take you a minute to get back to normal.
It takes a while.
And I didn't know you had someone recently who was looking for that instant gratification.
Oh, yeah.
So that in itself was a reason, I guess God put it on my spirit. I need to ask this because somebody watching is going through what she went through and wants that instant gratification now. And they're going to run from therapy if they can't get it.
Or try to get it in a bad place too. Or they try to get it from sex or other things like that. And I always tell people about the Halle Berry movie. I said, if you really watch it, I didn't know they liked the movie at first, but what happened when she was talking about she wanted to feel good to get on my nerve. But what she was saying is that, hey, my husband had died. Her husband had died. Her son had got killed. And all she knew was she was hurt. I think she was hurting. And then her and Billy Bob Thornton did that little thing. And she was saying she wanted to get monsters ball. But what she was saying, if you watch the movie and get past all that part there, is that she just wanted to feel good at that time. So I ain't got something else. So make me feel good. She wanted to feel good. And that's how we find that addiction all the time, is that people be out there having sex and stuff like that. And people like, why are they doing that? I was like, because they still at their base level. They won't, I can't have drugs. I can't have alcohol, but I can have sex. And I know sex makes me feel good at this time. And so even though I know this person might have AIDS, they might have something like that.
I hate to jump in here, but now we talking about the crack years.
Yeah.
Now we talking about make me feel good.
Yeah.
And it just hit me like, could that be the cause of our really what's happening right now with all this sexual immorality?
Oh yeah,
we're trying,
all that.
Everybody's trying to have that narcissistic monster fed by likes and shares so that they feel good to compensate for what they missed during those cracks.
Yeah, when you're always trying to make up for those feelings, man. That's the thing about therapy. What it does is that you got to understand, why do you have this need to have this thing? Why do you feel like, because people just always feel like, and that's why we talked about, I talk about suicide and depression, because social media, that's that newer generation. You just kind of came in on the end of it. Y'all kind of was the beginning of it and the end of it, because these kids now, even though they know it's fantasy, they still think that everything is tied to people liking them. Or all that. And one of the things I had to learn early is I had to get off that stuff, because it messes you up, because it's a fantasy, but it's still in your mind. You think that everybody's happy.
Yeah.
Everybody has a good relationship, and then it's not true. But in your mind, you kind of want to do that. And so
I would deactivate my page almost once a month.
Yeah.
Just because once you own it, you get drawn into it, and you be like, okay, I know this a lie right here.
Yeah.
And now this don't look right.
Yeah.
But our generation is so used to what Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, all those things that it shows you a picture of a dream.
Yeah, it's fantasy.
Yeah.
And that's virtual reality. All that,
Yeah.
those VR things, people are so caught up into that. I watched this thing with this guy, he lives his whole life in virtual reality. You know what I'm saying? Because it's an escape. It's an escape from the realities of the world. And it's an easier way out because it's, you know, the world is hard in this thing. And so people don't want to deal with it. And I said that's one of the things that I see all the time, even in relationships and everything like that, is that people don't want to have those hard conversations.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But it takes real conversation. That's one thing I do appreciate that Curtis does, is that he does have real conversations with people in his things, because we need to know that. You know, you need to know that, hey, this is not real. But even with that, even me knowing all that stuff, and I was talking about the friend I remember that I rode the drill with, that I saw, and he was in the army, he was doing this, and I was looking at this in his rank, and I was like, man, I'd have been that same rank right now. I'd be an officer 12 and hit a big old house and all this thing. And even though I knew, you know, that was fake, and I was like, man, I should have just stayed in the military. And then not too long after that, I'm looking on this thing, and they looking for this guy. He's at this lake, and he done committed suicide. And I was like, thank you, God. I said, I needed that. I said, because I'm in here like, hey, I'm in here trying to help people, Lord, and I ain't making no money. You know what I'm saying? And I, don't know that. But you looking at it, but every picture you see, he's smiling. But that's what happened. Even though we know that people take pictures when everything is good or bad, or people take pictures of their food when they get paid, but they don't take pictures on 2 weeks before they get paid, when they struggle. They got some bologna, some bread, and some with some hog head cheese and crackers. You know.
That's why I tell people. One thing I've learned since I've been going to therapy, I don't judge a book by its cover. I'm not quick to judge a person, because you never know what that person's going through.
Right.
Because you probably didn't know what I was going through until I broke down in your office.
Right.
Because I'm so goofy, and I
Right.
come with my corner jokes.
Yeah, very corny, very corny, very corny.
But you didn't know until, I guess, the spirit led you to say something going on with her.
Yeah. But I watch my people, and that's one thing about it. A lot of people don't care. A lot of people don't, but see me, I'm gonna look at you. I'm gonna say, hey man, how you doing? Then I'm looking at you. I'm saying, no, how you doing for real? You know what I'm saying? Because I'm looking at your eyes. I'm looking at all that stuff. Because see, so many people don't care, because they got their own stuff going on, and they got, because that's what I was telling Perry. When we only do us, when people always say I'm doing me, when you do me, the world is doing you.
Yeah.
Your kids is doing, your family is doing, your friends. And if I say I love you, Jessica, and I care about you, and I don't care about what's going on with you, then I don't love you. And so I do. And guess what? Loving somebody is messy. Yeah. Anything that's worth it is messy. Your child, your baby is messy. You having them was messy. Making them was messy. Everything worth having is messy. And so being a good friend is messy too.
Yeah.
A lot of times people don't want to be friends because they don't want to deal with that mess.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so that's the thing, is that, you know, the reality is that if I want to be a good friend, I have to be a good friend. I got to deal with your mess, and I got to deal with all that stuff. People talk to me all the time, but guess what? It get messy. But if I care about you, I'm going to sit there and live with your mess. We're going to dig at your mess together.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But I also am going to throw you a stick and say, hey, Jessica, now, this the stick. If you want to use it to crawl out, you can. No, I want you to crawl out, but you still got to do the crawling out on your own, though. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to hold a stick, but you still got to lay your hands on it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's the purpose. But anyway, we went on a whole nother rabbit trail. We have ended for the day. Yeah, we can get into about 50 other things, but just I appreciate you so much. And guys, thank you so much for being with us. I appreciate y'all. We're going to end it here. Okay. Hopefully we have Jessica back on here another day to talk to us about that. Yeah. Yes, thank you for sharing, Jessica. There's the meal, guys. See you later, family.
You're clear.
All right. Appreciate you, man.